Now is the joy of being a live stream coming to you live from Brooklyn, New York. And if you're watching this anywhere other than twitch.tv/deepmindfulness, well, come on over. This is where we have the most fun. I'm just kidding. Wherever you are is good. We're trying out several platforms all together here. So, folks, welcome. How are folks doing? Let's see here. Confusion. Excellent. Okay. There we are. So, folks, welcome. Let me know where you are coming from as you're beginning to observe this lovely stream here. Hello, all. Welcome. Nice to see you here. Let's see. What is the general breakdown here? So, let us know where you're coming from. Let us know, especially, this has been something that I've been trying to figure out. Where should this turn? This shouldn't be here. It should be over there. Something I've been trying to figure out. Are folks, is anyone here relatively new to meditation or new to our way of meditation? It's helpful to know. Monica from Baltimore. You know, Monica, somehow I didn't realize that maybe we just didn't talk about it. Where in Baltimore are you? I went to art school at MICA. So I'd be very curious where you're located. I went to art school there, and I lived for the most of my time there. I lived right by the Paper Moon on, I think it was Charles. No, it was 30 something. The same street that Paper Moon is on. So yeah, it was right over there. Nick joining us from Sweden. Nick is also here, our co-host. Nick has been such a lovely subscriber over here on Twitch, such a great supporter that we wanted to honor him. And if you'd like that honor yourself, well, just listen, jump on and subscribe, and you will be our next co-host. Very supportive, very supported feeling. That's how it feels. It feels very supportive. Folks, where are you joining us from? As we begin here, we're going to be chit-chatting about meditation today, and we're going to be meditating a little bit, which is always a delight. And what else? And we'll be chatting with you if it's of interest to chat about your personal meditation. Interesting, we just sent out the first wave of confirmations for folks who are going to be participating in our second round or second wave of the Progress of Shinsight course, which I'll put a link for that if anyone's interested in that. Lots of spelling mistakes. That's the link if you want to check out what that course is all about. And beep boop boop. And what was the general breakdown here was that. So some people have just registered, and we sent out our welcome letter. So some folks might be joining us from the stream. If you're joining us from the course, welcome. The course will be starting soon, but you're of course always welcome here. Thanks for joining. Let's see. Someone posted the link thing. Thank you for that, whoever posted that. And it produced many copies of the links. For some reason it does 3. I haven't figured out why that is. Tomalin, if you're watching, help me figure out why it posts this thing 3 times in a row. I lived in Riverside in the South Baltimore for a decade. Oh, interesting. I don't know Riverside. It's so funny how, you know, it's Baltimore, and I had a car towards the end, but for most of it I didn't have a car. Plus I was in MICA, which is incredibly intensive, so I just barely explored the city. If I needed a strobe light, I would venture down to the Fells Point area and get something and then leave. But I was really relatively reclusive. That's my small town upbringing coming out. Nick says, been missing the stream lately. That's how crazy it's been. Nothing personal. Yeah, what the hell, Nick? You're not allowed to miss the stream. We all took it personally. No, I'm just kidding. So cool. So where are folks joining us from? I know there's some folks over here on our YouTube. There's some folks joining us from Facebook, and some folks who are just in the chat, just the Discord. So jump on over. Let us know where you're coming from. Let's see here. Federal Hill and Locust Point. It's so funny. I know none of these. I really don't know the map. Anyway, if someone wants to, maybe we should explore the map of Baltimore. Maybe that's what people came here for. So the point of it all is we're going to be meditating today with the lovely serenade of various drills, as they often do happen as soon as we start, hit the record button. Today was happening, a few minutes before we started, but the difference here being that they didn't get quite so, it wasn't quite so abundant prior to this. So just thank your lucky stars that now you have a very clear sense of the abundance of distracting sounds. And we, of course, use our meditation skills to work through it. It wouldn't be a meditation if you couldn't handle various distractions, that kind of thing. So we're going to meditate for about 25 minutes, and then after that we are going to open up the lines if people have any questions. Today's going to be a little bit of a shorter stream just because we have some stuff we have to get to ASAP. And yeah, that's the general breakdown, folks. So find yourself a nice, comfy seated position as I find myself a nice, comfy meditation bell. General suggestion is that folks find a way to keep the body still for the duration of the sit, trying not to move the body in any way. Although, if you have any experience with trauma or you just feel overwhelmed in general, just feel free to make whatever adjustment you need to in that way. And if you don't know, often sitting at the edge of whatever surface you're sitting on, edge of a cushion or edge of a chair. I don't know if you can tell that I'm floor gang, 100% floor gang over here. I don't know curious who's floor gang in the house, who else is floor gang, but floor gang in the house. And so what I do is sit on the cushion, at the edge of the cushion, so the hips are able to just slightly rock down. It's literally when I talk about the hips rocking down, which I talk about frequently, it's literally, let's see, it's a difference of like hips not rock down, and then you're sitting on the edge of the cushion, hips rock down. It's probably more like this and then this. It's like this difference of actual movement in the body. Hips rock down. This allows the lower spine to curve naturally, which allows the upper spine to curve in counterpose, creating a nice balance in that way. Rory joining us from Kingston, Ontario. Okay, so we have a couple Baltimore folks, or at least historically Baltimore folks, and some folks from Canada. Lovely, lovely. So folks, we're going to begin meditating, and because there is going to be this drilling in the background, I'll just say now, it's natural that you'd be distracted. So just allow distraction to arise, and notice the part of the system that's treating it like it's alien. That's often the case, that there's some part of us that's like, no, 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 alien, bad, get out of here sound. But guess what? That's not going to happen in our lives. Generally, our lives are going to be filled with lots of experiences that are not our faves. Okay. So someone discovered that if you type exclamation point links, it floods the stream with links, which is fine with me. It just makes the screen a little crowded. Not me doing that. Let's see here. Landon, welcome. Nice to see you here. Thanks so much for joining us here. Many thanks from New Hampshire. Well, many thanks for joining us. Okay. So we're going to begin. And when you can, find a nice comfortable position you can maintain for the duration of the sit. And we will begin. Beginning by taking a few comfortable deep breaths. Just feeling the body rise and fall. Let's begin by acknowledging the ancient quality, ancient factor, ancient guidance of living in a body. This doesn't have to be some strange mystical experience, but just experiencing what it's like to be conscious within a body that is billions of years of development of technology. Soaking into the ancient system of wisdom. This may sound a little silly, a little hokey. Maybe it is. And recognizing that the few years we've been alive wouldn't even show up on a map if we traced back and compared that to the development of the human technology that we're navigating the world through. It would be very hard to even contemplate what billions of years of development would be like. We can barely remember what a year of human development is like. The good news is that we can directly detect the effect of billions of years of experiential, biological development. This is the richness of being, of sensing, of experiencing the world right now. Even our capacity to experience awe, to have contact with the depth of this powerful piece of knowledge. This too is part of the expression of the same brilliant ancient technology. So just bringing this little bit of respect into the practice. Beginning by breathing in, observing the body rising and falling. Observing the experience of a mind that can stay with and track our experience, and that also sometimes becomes distracted. Today we're going to begin by simply tracking the experience of consciousness. So if we're conscious, In the mind, we can simply use this word as a label, conscious. And if we're unconscious, we're unlikely to be able to label. This is one of the hallmarks of consciousness. We'll simply be distracted or pulled away. We'll forget that we're practicing, just be daydreaming. But in order to know that we were daydreaming, we've returned to consciousness. So a fun game can be to try to become distracted. Try to drift off. Try to let the mind unconsciously daydream, whatever our usual pattern is. Noticing if consciousness is present. Often we find it's hard to become unconscious. So letting go of needing to direct the practice or pick any particular meditation object. Letting go of trying to be distracted, as we tried for a few moments. Sliding into a kind of non-doing practice, although we'll add a little instruction. So we're not directing our attention or awareness. We're not trying to stay alert or trying to meditate. But we are going to add one little instruction, which is to simply use the word conscious in the mind anytime we recognize that our system is currently conscious. Not overthinking this term. If we can make this assessment, we're conscious. As opposed to when we're blackout asleep with no dreams. And the mind simply labeling conscious every few moments if we are conscious. If we're distracted, we'll only know this when we become conscious again. So effectively all we can know is consciousness. At times, the mind will become a bit foggy or be naturally pulled away. Simply recognizing that consciousness has returned. If we find the labeling too turbulent or causing too much extra activity, we can simply stay with the experience, knowing that what we're experiencing is consciousness. And exploring this has its own phenomena. What a strange and impossible occurrence. Strange and dynamic way that reality can relate to itself. This is nature, this ancient technology, observing nature. Distraction is natural. Returning is natural. Having a foggy or dull mind is natural. Having an overly active mind is also natural. So staying with the practice, I'd like you to allow the slightest bit of movement in the body, or acknowledgement of movement that's already there. Letting the movement of the breath, any other movements that are already present, letting those make the adjustments to the body that might be needed. And noticing the experiencing of these. Allowing whatever gentle, subtle movements we'd like anywhere in the body. Encouraging the subtle exploration of this eons of development. This human physical form. And the consciousness which has contact with it. Observing whether the mind experiences these as separate or as one. The consciousness of the body and the body, or if they're simply created out of an interaction with each other. And staying with the practice and just allowing the body to make any adjustments, movements it needs to. What would feel pleasant to this body? Notice that this movement certainly has a bit of our control involved. But notice how much of it is programmed into the body. The body knows how to make these adjustments. How to experience and explore what is pleasant. Recognizing that even this sense of self, sense of an agent who might control our physical movements, even this activity of the body-mind is millions and millions of years older than us. The identity we imagine is in control. So allowing a tiny bit of light to enter the eyes, eventually allowing them to rest on a single point, even if the body would still like to move. We might joke or think about this idea of ancient alien technology, but recognizing that that's what we're effectively in contact with now. There's the self that we imagine is just a few decades old, and then there's the actual technology that we're in contact with, the human body, the consciousness of a human mind, the ability to assemble a sense of self, of inside and outside, of me and not me. All of this is ancient beyond comprehension. And so simply exploring this, enjoying this, and letting this exploration show us how we might bring this practice into every aspect of our life. Okay. That was, for me at least, I don't know how it was for you, much stranger than I had expected. So make any adjustments you need to allow the body to be comfortable. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is we'll have our little connection time. And what does that mean? Means we're going to put a Zoom link. Ooh. Right. We're going to put a new Zoom link in here. Different than usual. Okay, I'm just setting this up. Okay. Beep, boop, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep. Okay, hopefully this works. You've been drawing before. Waiting room. Okay, great. Okay, here we go. I'm going to post this little meeting ID here. Oh, wait, this doesn't need. Tell me if this needs a password if you try to get in. What? What the hell? Okay, sorry guys. I'm like trying to like do something special here. Okay, forget it. Okay, forget that. That's the meeting ID. Okay, we're going to jump in here. If folks would like to join us, it'd be lovely to have you. We can chit chat like kitty cats. And have some fun talking about our practice. So what was that practice like? A very central part of the practice is talking about our practice. So what was that like? What was your practice like? What was your experience just now? We did a pretty strange practice. That was pretty hippy-dippy, if I might say so myself. Maybe it's our dramatic lighting here today. Maybe that's what did it. Beep boop boop is the next thing is yeah, it's pretty strange meditation. I'm wondering what that was like for you. What happened? Oh, and my camera froze as per usual. Someone is posting the link's link. Very impressive. I can't tell if somebody's trolling or not. Okay, I should be back now. Great. Let's see. Nick says, we like weird. Got a weird feeling that this guy right here who thinks he's in control isn't really affecting anything in regards to outcomes. Yeah, it's a big question about free will, and I won't get into it because I'm not qualified to answer. But that's been something that's been really sort of hitting me recently. Oh, you have a question here. A question arose, and then somebody flooded the... Oh, it is a troll. Someone's flooding these things with these things. Okay, well, thanks, Trolly. Every time you you do that troll, it means people get reconnected in the community, so that's okay. Oh, and it looks like maybe one of our... Oh, no, it's okay. Okay, let me just double check here. Is anyone waiting? Okay, no one's waiting in Zoom right now. But we have a question. You asked us to connect with the label conscious. Okay, and maybe see where this is going. And I found that even when I labeled something as conscious, I noticed that the moment before that was almost always unconscious. Okay, like the only way consciousness could exist is if it was conscious of something. Ooh, ding, 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 ding. Can anything exist that is not conscious? Okay, wait, so can anything exist that is not consciousness? Well, I'm going to reframe the question and let me know if this distorts your question beyond recognition. Is it possible to be conscious of something? Well, let me see. Can anything exist that is not, I would say, in contact with consciousness? So that's the way I would reframe that. Tell me if that distorts your question too much. So what you're describing here in Buddhism is called dependent origination. That there is the object, which can be contacted, and then there is the contact of that object. And there's many philosophical arguments about which is first, which is primary. The object, is that real, or the the mind which knows that object? And that's actually the primary argument that took place in the 60s and 70s between, look at that, I got a little scratch on my nose. Oh, that's probably been a puppy. The argument between conceptual art and minimalist art. So just for fun, this is fun for me. Let's see, who are we going to look up here? Okay, we're going to look up this. Let's pop this image into the side screen here. Okay, monitor 2 is on. Visible. Okay, that's my zoom. Not going to worry about that. Let's pick a piece of Dan Flavin's artwork. You know, the oldest Dan Flavin is stuff I like the most. But, you know, he had to have a whole career, so. Okay, we'll pick this one. This is a classic. Okay, let's move this tab into the window next door. Okay. And we'll see if my new zoom feature works. Okay. Let's see if this works. Oh, pretty good. It's happening. Okay, wow, that worked. Okay, so this is an artwork by an artist named Dan Flavin. He is considered a minimalist, maybe not surprisingly, but minimalism wasn't just fewer elements. Minimalism actually meant something very specific, and that was, the argument was that experiencing came first. Experiencing versus, experiencing versus, I want to pick a different one here. Will that work? No, okay. Sorry. Is that visible? Anyway, so the point of it is, so experiencing over thinking. The mind is secondary to the experiencing process. So that's we could call that the minimalist artist sort of viewpoint, that comes first, and then I'm getting very confused here by this magnifying glass. Okay, I'm feeling very dotty today, very boomer. Oh, I see. There's two windows with the same thing in it. Okay, now I understand. Okay, so that's that. Let's then jump over and look at another artist. Let's see who's the nice classic conceptual artist. I don't want to go into post-minimalism because those guys argued in both directions. You see where I'm going here. Let's do Joseph Kosuth. Joseph Kosuth. Images. Okay, classic, famous Joseph Kosuth artwork here. Okay, we'll just bring this sucker over into this window, and we will zoom ourselves in. And plus, yes. Okay, classic Joseph Kosuth. What a wacky guy. So this is an artwork that you might encounter at any given museum or this kind of thing. You walk up, you see this thing, there is a physical chair there, there's a photograph of the exact same chair, often in the exact same position, and then a dictionary definition of the chair. And the premise here is deconstructing which one of these is primary. Is the physical object primary, which is what the minimalists argued, or is the sort of understanding of that primary? And they were in part saying that none, you can't say that the physical object is primary, that the two, that the conceptual side is primary. But, and just to finish our loop here, I want to go over, hey, I said array. I want to jump over here to one more artist. Let's see here. Who's the greatest post-minimalist artist, of course, is whose name? Bruce Nauman. Bruce Nauman was making post-minimalism when minimalism was in its infancy. So Bruce Nauman basically, and I'll find something that points to this, because he has a lot of different kinds of work, and they're often quite confusing and weird. So it's hard to sort of navigate some of this. Oh, you know what? I know which one to look for. Bruce Nauman corridor. Bruce Nauman corridor. Okay. So Bruce Nauman corridor is this. Here's one. Bring this over. So Bruce Nauman's corridor is an example of something that is, there we go, an example of something that is a combination of the idea that it's conceptual and that it's experiential. So this guy's having this clear, like, physical, experiential, bodily experience, but it's in this thing that's highly constructed, that's highly made and produced. The lighting is such. There's this. It's within a container here, so you can imagine. Let me see. Can I? This is another one of the corridor pieces. Let's see here. I'm lost. I'm a boomer. Okay, so this is another one of the corridor pieces, which actually has a television in it. Anyway, I won't get into that. Okay, I'm having fun bouncing around, so work with me, folks. Work with me. Okay, here's another. Oh, that's. Is this visible? Are you my object? Okay. Here's another corridor. I think that's the same one we just looked at a moment ago. Let's see here. Okay, so these are corridors. Very advanced. This is advanced meditation. Watching someone aimlessly scroll around corridors. So the point of it is that this question of which is something, can the mind experience something that is not physical? Can something physical happen that is free and independent of the mind, is a very central question in Buddhism. And the area where that is sort of discussed and talked about is what's called dependent origination. And the premise and the theory in Buddhism, which you are very welcome to explore and refute, and if you have a better outcome or a clearer outcome, or then Buddhism itself would be happy to hear that and have that be replaced. So the general premise, though, is that there is these two things that arise simultaneously: the experiencing of the object and the object itself. There can be no contact with something without consciousness there, and there can be no consciousness without any object that arises at any given point. So they are, the question of whether they're separate is one thing, but the main thing is that they are beep, boop, beep, beep, boop, that they come experientially together, that they arrive together. So let's see here. Jumping way back. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. Let me know if it does not answer your question. Nick says, the comment about weird. Scott, welcome, Scott. Nice to see you. Scott Nesbin, welcome. Good to see you here. And I should remind people, my support staff will kill me if I don't remind people. If you want to know what's going on here, follow us on Twitch, hit the follow button, that heart button, or if you want to know what's going on, follow that subscribe button on YouTube, if you're watching there. Scott says, very beautiful. I love the guidance of recognizing consciousness and feeling what it's like to be alive in the mysterious human form. Me too. It instantly brings to mind a sense of presence and curiosity with my experience. Thank you. Well, thank you. Glad you enjoyed. Glad that was a good time. The art of being mentioned equals Janos goes into instant flow. Don't forget to construct the passage of time or you'll be late. Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of necessary construction in order to hold reality together. I was like, oh, look, it's corridors. I was like, oh, look, everybody, it's corridors. All right, bye. Okay. Monica says, yeah, it seemed like both arose at the same time. P.S. We could see the artwork you were we couldn't. What was me? This artwork you were talking about. But I Googled it and followed along. Okay, that was embarrassing. Okay, then, let me see what happened. Well, I think I know what happened. We'll call it boomeritis. I have the links open here. Okay, I'm gonna whiz through these really quickly. So, okay, we're gonna open these up. We're gonna make these artworks visible. I messed up. I didn't hit the transition button. Transition. You should be able to see this. If you can't see it, that's my fault, suckers. If you still can't see it, then listen, that's my fault, and I don't know, you're in trouble. You're in trouble for trusting someone like me. Okay, here is the Dan Flavin piece that we were talking about. It is totally cropped. There we go. I'm going to re-add my zoom feature and give us a little look-see. Okay, this is the Dan Flavin artwork. Hopefully that is highly visible. Oh, look, my search for my previous search for controllers for steering wheels. I want to teach Raquel how to drive, and we don't have a car, so we're going to get controllers for our game controller thing. This is Dan Flavin, minimalist experience first. Then let's see, if we jumping forward here, Joseph Kosuth, classic Joseph Kosuth here. This is his chair. Classic Kosuth. What a nut. Really, actually, not surprisingly, the rumor is like really not fun guy to be around. Not like a fun guy at parties. He's very like, this is how reality is. Go to hell. So Joseph Kosuth. I don't know. That's what I've heard. So don't want to believe the rumors. Then we have ourselves Bruce Nauman, which honestly, Bruce Nauman corridors are pretty cool, and they illustrate the point quite well. Oh, well, whatever. But Bruce Nauman in general is just so super brilliant. Oh my god. And it takes a while to get into, like, I feel like he changes his whole thing and his artwork so much that it takes a long time to get into it. Okay, so now I'm just going to go into talking about artwork. I'm going to make sure no one's like has some desperate question here that I need to answer ASAP. Okay, I'm just going to talk about artwork for a minute. So Joseph Kosuth, I'm trying to think. I'm not Joseph Kosuth. Bruce Nauman. Okay, here's a good one. Let's go with this. So this is this weird fountain piece that is, he's known for making these very weird, casts of people's heads, and then having, all these weird, different things, man, I'm really articulate today. Let's see, actually. The point of it all is that it's an investigation into what's the experience of knowing? What's the experience of experiencing? What's the combination and relationship between experiencing and knowing? And how does the mind construct experiences? We look at these sort of heads in a row, and what happens? Like, to even recognize them as objects, we need to some degree, identify with the experience of having a head, having seen our own head from the experience of a mirror, a lifetime of, sanskara or habits of experiencing a human head. But there's 3 of them, and they're all the same head. So, okay, now we're getting into sort of representation and things that are recreated, and what does it mean when we see our own photographic image? But is this really my head? I mean, do I identify with this? I mean, looks like a white bald dude. I'm not a white bald dude. Depending on who's viewing this thing at any given point, there's all these water things springing out. Like, what's happening here? And it's not, and I'll just be very emphatic here, it is not a situation of just random things all put together that are just like, sure, this is just for the fun of existing here. Here's a good one. This is one of my favorite examples. Let's try this one. Or not my favorite examples. He's just a brilliant guy. Come on, give me a break. Okay, this is good. It reminds me quite a bit of something Shinzen said. Oh, P.S. Bruce Nauman is heavy into the only people he hated society, he hated art society and all the rich people and all this stuff. And so the only people he wanted to talk to, he moved out into the middle of the country, out of nowhere, which for a famous artist like this was sort of weird at the time when he did it. And the only people he talked to were the cowboys, who just were reality, and they just be very real, and the Tibetan monks. And so he just loved hanging out with, talking to, and being around Buddhist monks. So just a little factor here. So this is his signature piece, literally, of his name, Bruce, with all of the letters expanded. And Shinzen has this statement where he says, one of the powerful things about awakening, you can think of it like you'll be able to write your name in 10-foot tall letters. The only downside is that it's going to be written in invisible ink. And to me, there's a close relationship here of these two these two sets of thoughts is like, what does it mean in terms of identity, in terms of who we are, if we take the thing that we consider part of our identity, the signature itself, and then just multiply itself. Like, what does that mean about us? Like, what does that say about him? What does it say about me, my name? What does the name mean? And sort of deconstructing these pieces of experiencing. And for me, when I was making conceptual art myself, making post-minimalist art, I was doing the same work that we're doing here, deconstructing, reconstructing, exploring the experience of being and the self, but it was in the form of artwork. So there is some fun facts for you in this world. Hopefully that was fun and not agonizing. Let's see here. Feel. I'm going to kill this transition and jump back to this question. This will be our last question for the day before we jump into my wish for you. What do you think of Carlos Castaneda and ancient seers of Mexico? Well, I think very highly of them. Although I am not myself an expert in that field at all. I have a lot of respect for folks who navigate that material. And that's a little bit, honestly, I've been sort of doing my own meditation and my own, process lately. And today's meditation, I think in part was probably inspired by some of that material in general pop culture of recognizing that there's sort of an ancient consciousness and we can harmonize with that or not, or we can ignore that or be conscious of it. And I think that that's partially what they were exploring as well. So that, my friends, is everything as part of this live stream, aside from a wish. Two things. One, before we make any wishes, before we toss our pennies, .io, there is our new course coming up. If you have interest in that, it's going to be a deep dive into a lot of this exact material we're talking about. That's starting soon. Feel free to ask any questions about that if you'd like, or just badmouth it. Just tell everybody it's terrible. Whatever you like, whatever you want to do, it's on you. So that's happening, and someone is spamming us with links. So thanks. I guess that's the least problematic kind of trolling that can happen. There's that. So beep boop boop beep boop. My wish for you. Okay, so my wish for you is as follows. I wish that today you're able to simply acknowledge the power, beauty, explosive magic of being a human being. As weird and silly and goofy as that might sound, just being a human being in this world is a very powerful thing. And be able to participate in that. We are extremely lucky. And also know that people have difficulties, and we are allowed to experience the wonder of reality without having to negate that by the fact that we can also be aware of difficulties and be compassionate. And we might ourselves be having difficulties right now, so we're not obligated to feel good about those or feel great that we're alive even though we're in immense pain. So sending kind wishes, sending warmth and joy to all of you. Have a lovely day, and look very forward to seeing you all very soon. Have a lovely day. As I try to type in the chat.